Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Veg Networking Canada. It is important to honor, acknowledge, and respect that many of us are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. So here we are, another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where plant-based vegan companies connect and collaborate. Today, we have a special guest. She has been a guest speaker at St. Thomas University and Harvard University. She's also been a contributor to HuffPost and Forbes. She is a vocal advocate to help farmers transition from raising animals to growing plants. She has a certificate in holistic plant-based nutrition with a focus on longevity, and she loves speaking to families starting their journey to help raise the next generation of ethical, compassionate, young humans. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce the founder of Rising Mothers. Welcome, Margaux Khoury.
Thank you so much, Justin. I love what you're doing here. And I'm just so pleased to be here with you all.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing more about your own personal story as well as professional stories as well. So let's start personally. Can you tell everybody listening about your own personal vegan origin story?
Yes. So I always start by kind of saying, to me, veganism isn't really the diet, because I know most people that I talk to consider it just the food, which that obviously changed through my journey. But I think I was always vegan at heart from the moment I watched my father going off to hunt partridge. And side note, so was he, because he went vegan 3 years ago. But amazing story there. But yeah, it was not until I watched a movie called Earthlings that I fully decided to ditch what I was doing before. It was normalized. I knew animal products were normalized in the diet, and I knew it just couldn't be right. So I stopped, and it's been close to 12 years now. So, and just for anyone listening, Justin, too, I'm also raising 3 children that way. So I love mentioning that for other mothers.
That's incredible. Talk about making an impact within your own household, your children and your father, and that's amazing. So I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks, kind of thing. Now, in terms of professional, Veg Networking Canada is centered around entrepreneurs, business, and different types of professionals. Can you help us understand your own personal entrepreneurial spark and how that started for you?
Yeah, sort of the same thing. I think I was an entrepreneur since birth, as most of us probably are, who follow this insane, crazy, and challenging, but also amazing path. My parents owned businesses ever since I could remember. And my parents actually immigrated to Canada. So I've always watched them work hard in business and do well, leave some, some are successes, some are not, or failures. And my parents taught me that failures are necessary in order to have the successes. And I remember learning early on that entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship can change the world. And now I'll add that ethical entrepreneurship, meaning helping sustainable companies and vegan companies. That's what's actually going to change the trajectory in what's happening in the world right now. So all that to say, that's my origin story. It really did start with my parents and even my grandparents. So
You're absolutely right. There are so many entrepreneurs who will say that they are self-admittedly sort of unemployable and they've always been an entrepreneur sort of since birth. And it's interesting to find out all the different stories that help people get along their journey early on. So speaking of ethical entrepreneurship, can you help us understand what might be some trends or transformations within ethical entrepreneurship, and maybe tell us a little bit more about your industry and trends or transformations within it?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do think, judging, I mean, there's market research out there, but judging by purchases and people's buying decisions and what companies out there, we've all seen kind of companies claim sustainability. I feel there's a lot of greenwashing out there as well. But in terms of trends, I do think that looking at the whole vegan sector, which I am vegan, is amazing. I love following the trends there. Myself, I'm focused on 2 niches right now: mothers and their health, and also something I talk about less but love talking about is how the school system has failed us as entrepreneurs or as people. So I unschool my children, which we have a group of entrepreneurs who do the same thing for many reasons. So I'm focused on mothers, raising compassionate, ethical, aware, amazing children outside of the school system, which I feel has is broken and has failed us, and also startups, because what has sort of destroyed the climate in the world, corporations, companies can also have the power to heal it and change things. So, and might as well, when talking to students in business or whatever, it's might as well steer them towards the biggest cause of the climate disaster, which is veganism. And I love advising on that topic. So that's my focus.
Wonderful. And not to say it exactly, but there is a JFK quote that basically talks about how children are our greatest hope for the future. And it's a very admirable place to put focus and attention on, as we know, right? Where attention goes, or where attention goes, energy flows. I think that's the saying.
Yeah.
So in terms of the future of Rising Mothers, can you catch us up to speed on, inception to where we are today? And then the question itself is, where is your business going in the future?
Sure. Yeah. So my kind of launch for the company that Jim and I worked on this together, was a summit, an online summit where I brought on, basically my focus was health. My specialty is longevity. I'm talking about how we talked a lot about how what the longest living humans on earth have in common. So I brought on experts, Dr. Clapper, Dana Martin. I bring in the unschooling topic to go back to that again, because I do think it's part of the whole package. There are certain pillars in life that make us healthy, as entrepreneurs and beyond. And so I brought on amazing people. I created this summit and grew it organically, and it was a really amazing success. And the response was so awesome. And the mothers that I talked to, it's clearly a need. We did talk a lot about how raising vegan children is the future. So that's sort of how I launched it, and now we're in the process of I want to plan my next step in that niche. I have an amazing group of mothers now who are like me. We were confused at the beginning, didn't know where to start. The pillars that we talk about are nutrition, movement, so health-wise, how we move, not necessarily going to the gym and pumping iron, but walking and staying healthy, purpose, mindset, and community as well, a solid group of people that we can trust and rely on.
Well, there's no shortage of amazing mothers out there, and you mentioned the plant-based vegan movement itself growing, and so naturally there's going to be that connection of mothers being interested in these types of conversations. This is very good. Now, in terms of giving back or charity, however you'd like to frame it, can you let us know a little bit, maybe from a either company level or personal level, in terms of your thoughts or focus on giving back and charity?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many ways to give back as well. People always ask me I how could I offer or give, because I've been working most recently. We donated River Phoenix Center for Peace Building because of talks of war, and I really feel that whole, like, veganism and everything, ethical entrepreneurship. If we don't talk about peace building and nonviolent communication, I love helping organizations that do that. Specifically, that one, the RPCP, and Paul Watson and Hayek Hospital. Basically, anyone working towards a better future and moving the needle. We don't have to start our own organization or donate a ton of money. I think there's so many different ways to help foundations and organizations doing awesome work. So, and I mentioned veganism a lot. I know this is the topic, but it's because really the numbers are staggering, and how it affects the world, and how we do need to change how we do things. So.
Well, that's exactly why we're here. Some people might not even know Veg Networking Canada, the Veg is Vegan Entrepreneurs Group. So we are more than happy to keep going back to that focal point of the conversation, definitely. Now, in terms of resources that have assisted you in your own growth, your own leadership, your own business ventures along the way, Can you share any books, podcasts, or even mobile apps that you use on your own phone that help you in your journey?
Yes, absolutely. I love so many. It's so hard this one because there are so many good ones, but um, I've always listened to Rich Rolls because he brings on fascinating people and it's quality time spent. And recently read Dr. Will Tuttle's World Peace Diet. I love his approach on the matter and on this issue. On the entrepreneurial side, there's a really amazing book by someone named Alex Sharpin. It's called Entrepreneurial Personality Type. And that one is an eye opener for any of us in business because there is a personality type. We are born this way. And oftentimes we feel like we're flawed somehow because we think differently, or the amount of mistakes that I've made that are considered mistakes, but now I look at them as stepping stones and how I can do better. That book is amazing. What else? Oh, there is one that I Seth Godin wrote, The Dip, which helps an entrepreneur see when it's a good time to quit, meaning when to push pause, because most of us think that we've always heard don't quit, keep going no matter what. It's really important to kind of I've learned this only just recently, to know when to push the pause button and to move on to something else. So I can continue
Wonderful.
more.
Oh yeah, that's the nice thing about this question when we speak to folks is there's just endless sort of touch points and resources and everything like that. So and it's worth mentioning too, it's not a book, podcast, or app, but on the documentary side, you did early on in the conversation mention Earthlings and how powerful that was for you and how that might also be powerful for others too.
It's so powerful. Yeah, I realized after talking to so many people about that documentary and Dominion and really things that are hard to watch, I realized how many people just shy away from watching it. But at the same time, we want to know where our carrots come from or where our celery comes from, where, how local our food is. We really, if we're gonna, I feel like it's really important to know where all our food that we're eating comes from, including the animals if we still eat them. On the unschooling topic, Justin, if you don't mind, I want to mention for anyone listening to this who is raising children who may not conform or maybe sort of labeled as ADHD or whatever the school system wants to label our children. Um, this was pivotal for me, reading things like Free to Learn by Dr. Gray, Growing Without Schooling. John Holt is like the grandfather of unschooling. So, as an entrepreneur, specifically for everyone listening, those books are amazing. It's almost liberating as a parent listening to understand what it is to unschool or deschool ourselves first. So,
That's an important topic to mention because the whole vegan parenthood thing is a very big area, growing area, and you're right. It is common to maybe have your child, be brought into the schooling system and then be told that your child has XYZ, whatever it is. And you think to yourself, well, I'm the same way. Like
yeah.
it's a strength for me. I'm creative. And so how do we navigate those conversations? Very, very good. So thank you for those extra resources. Now, in terms of the next question that we have for you, it's centered around inspiration, and you might take that as there's certain companies or people that you draw inspiration from. Feel free to give them a shout out and mention. Or maybe you might take that as describing what inspiration means to you or how inspiration affects you. But that is the question centered around inspiration.
Yeah, the circle I'm a part of now inspires me every day. Specifically, companies. I really love what Miyoko Shinner has done as a woman, an entrepreneur, and as an entrepreneur and a vegan. What she's done with her companies really inspiring. Um, Farm Sanctuary, it comes to mind too. What they've done. Gene Bauer, he's what they've created is a business, but it's also this beautiful spot where other sanctuaries can. It's almost like a model for future sanctuaries, if you will. Yeah, there are so many again, um, but I really love when people step outside of their comfort zone and start something like that. And there's so many of them now that I really feel the need to talk about supporting the existing ones, as well, being a part of them. So
Absolutely. And that's a nice sort of segue or dovetail into the next and final question for you, which is advice, tips, wisdom, however you like to frame it. We're sort of asking for, yeah, advice, tips, wisdom, little golden nuggets, things that you've learned along the way that might help a current entrepreneur, somebody thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. You mentioned just previously stepping outside of your comfort zone and how much you value that, and maybe how important that is. So please do touch upon that or any other sort of tips, advice, or wisdom that you have to share with everybody listening.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, the wisdom, I guess, comes from, again, the amount of mistakes like really mistakes you make as an entrepreneur. I would say, just on the topic that I mentioned of quitting, we all start things that are amazing or not. Like I've through real estate and everything I've ever done, juice bar, whatever we've ever done. Um, I look back and some of them were successes and some of them were not. And the earlier we recognize that, I think the better. So I feel it's important to maybe exhaust, move on. But I know companies, when we know it's difficult. Yeah.
Awesome, Margaux. Thank you so much for sharing your own personal story and more about your business and what you have going on. Sounds incredibly exciting and very meaningful and impactful, especially with a focus on the younger generation, because again, that's where a lot of focus ought to be put, definitely, and that's for sure. So, with this conversation that we have with you today, is there anything that has come up or anything that we may have missed in terms of announcements or anything that you have going on that you want to let the listeners know about? Oh, sorry, I'll just ask you to unmute.
Sorry. There we go. You
There we go.
can hear me now. You did an amazing job. Thank you for all of that, by the way. And no, I think you covered it all. The Rising Mothers site is rising-mothers.com, but and that's an ongoing. People keep signing up for that for the summit. You can still listen to it, and I think that's it. Justin, thank you for an awesome time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And as Margaux said, everybody, you can find out more about Rising Mothers online, www.rising-mothers.com. And on Instagram, you can check out some more information there as well at rising_mothers_official. So this has been another Veg Networking Canada episode with the founder of Rising Mothers, Margaux Khoury, and everybody else. We'll catch you soon on another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where plant-based vegan companies connect and collaborate. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.